Hey leader, and welcome to episode number 336 of the L3 Leadership Podcast, where we are obsessed with helping you grow to your maximum potential and to maximize the impact of your leadership. My name is Doug Smith, and I am your host, and today's episode is brought to you by my friends at Baritone Advisors. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that you'll enjoy our content and become a subscriber. Know that you can also watch all of our episodes over on our YouTube channel as well, so make sure you're subscribed there. And if you've been listening to the podcast for a while and it's made an impact on your life, it would mean the world to me if you would leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts through. That really does help us to grow our audience and reach more leaders, so thank you in advance for that. Well, leader, in today's episode, you're going to hear a personal lesson by me. This is a lesson I've wanted to do for quite some time called All the Hacks, where I'll be going through all of my favorite tools, resources, and services that will add value to your life. And if you like life hacks and resources, you're going to love this episode. I go through a ton of them, so make sure you check out the show notes as well, because that'll have links to everything that I discussed, which I go through a ton of resources, and I really think they'll help you. But before we dive into the episode, just a few announcements. This episode of the L3 Leadership Podcast is sponsored by Baritone Advisors. The financial advisors at Baritone Advisors help educate and empower clients to make informed financial decisions. You can find out how Baritone Advisors can help you develop a customized financial plan for your financial future by visiting their website at baritoneadvisors.com. That's BERATUNG advisors.com. Securities, investments, and products and services offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA and SIPC. Baritone Advisors, LPL Financial, and L3 Leadership are separate entities. I also want to thank our sponsor, Henny Jewelers. They're a jeweler owned by my friend and mentor, John Henny. And my wife, Laura, and I got our engagement and wedding rings at Henny, and we just loved our experience. And not only do they have great jewelry, but they also invest in people. In fact, for every couple that comes in and gets engaged, they give them a book to help them prepare for marriage, and we just love that. So if you are in need of a good jeweler, check out hennyjewelers.com. And with all that being said, let's dive right in. Here's my lesson on all of my favorite hacks. Enjoy. Hey leader, today I'd like to talk to you on the subject, all the hacks. I'm going to be sharing with you my favorite tools, resources, and services that have helped me go further, faster in every area of my life, both personally and professionally. And I think this is going to add a ton of value to your life. This is an episode that I've been wanting to record for a long, long time. I love finding out about new services, products, and resources to help my life get better. And then I'm very passionate about sharing those with others. Once I find something that changes my life, I try to sell everyone on it, which is pretty much what I'm going to try to do to you today. I'm going to try to sell you on all of these services because I really do believe that they'll make your life better. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share resources by category. So I'll say something like family, and then I'll just share some resources that have been helpful to our family, etc., as we go through. And if you lose any of these or you're listening to this while you're driving in a car, we will link to all of these things in the show notes. So you can just go to those and then click on any of the links to go back to anything that you were interested in. And so with that said, let's dive right in to some of my favorite tools and resources. The first category that I want to talk to you about is family. So I'm going to be sharing some things that have helped Laura and I have a better marriage, to help Laura and I parent better, and just to be a more productive family team together. And so the first resource I would share when it comes to family is actually an organization that we connected with and use their resources called Family Teams. Family Teams. And I've mentioned them many times on the podcast before. I've interviewed one of the co-founders, Jeremy Pryor. And again, I don't have time to go into how we're implementing everything, but if you'd like to learn more about how Laura and I are leading our family team, I recorded an episode a few months ago called How We're Leading Our Family Team, and I walk you through how we're leading our family. So we'll include a link to that in the show notes, and you can go back and check that out if you want to. But Family Teams has been super helpful. They gave us a structure for our family where we have a weekly family team meeting. And that's very structured, and they actually lay out how to have that meeting, which is great. They also have a tool called the Weekly Family Team Calendar. And so every week you actually write out everything you're going to do, what recipes you're going to cook, etc. And that's been a really effective tool that we use on a consistent basis. And then also when it comes to family planning, we, for Laura and I, we use an app called Cozy, C-O-Z-I. And that's our shared calendar. And we've been using that since we got married. There may be better services out now, but we've loved it. And that's just our shared calendar that we can pull up and see what each other are doing every day. And we always go through that every single week in our weekly family team meeting. So having a shared calendar has been huge. There's two apps that I'm about to test. So I'll throw some things out there that I think are interesting, but we are just starting to look into them. The first is an app called Paprika. So when it comes to weekly family team planning, obviously you have to meal prep and plan for meals. And Laura and I both work, so life's a little crazy. But Paprika is an app where you can actually save recipes, and it'll automatically take out all the ingredients and put them on a grocery list for you. You can save them all in one place. It'll sync across all of your devices. And so we've been trying to find a good meal prep app, and I think we finally found it. So that's called Paprika. The other one is an app called Trustworthy. And again, this is more long-term planning, but Trustworthy is a service where you can actually upload all of your important financial or all of your important family documents onto one website. So instead of having to have your will and all these other estate documents in a folder somewhere in your house in a safe, everything's actually online, and you can give access to other family members as well. And so that's something that's interesting to us as well as we continue to grow our family. But more than anything, I really encourage you to check out Family Teams. They wrote a book called Family Revision that really changed our life and the way that we view and lead our family. The second tool that I'd share with you when it comes to Family Teams is another organization that we connected with called Intentional Parenting. And this is led by Phil and Diane Comer, who I've had on the podcast before. I really encourage you to check them out. They wrote a book called Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. Raising Passionate Jesus Followers. And I've been buying it for couples left and right because it's the best parenting book I've ever read. It's so thorough and so good. I encourage you to check that out. And they have a podcast as well with a ton of great resources for parenting. But that's been one of our number one parenting resources as well. And then when it comes to marriage, the best resources we found so far is with an organization called XO Marriage. If you just look up XO Marriage, you'll find them. They have conferences. I live in Pittsburgh. They come here every year. They have conferences across the country. They have thousands of resources when it comes to podcasts, books, etc. I'll just list one that really made an impact on Laura and I's life. It was an audio series. So again, this is not the book, but it's called Marriage on the Rock by Jimmy Evans, Marriage on the Rock. And again, I'd encourage you to get the audio series. It's Jimmy Evans teaching on it, not the audio book. But Marriage on the Rock was huge for our marriage, and we just love that. And then a book I've been giving out recently. Again, I have two boys. They're very young right now. But to anyone who has boys, this book by John Tyson called The Intentional Father. Unbelievable book for when it comes to raising young men. And so if you're raising boys out there, I encourage you to check out The Intentional Father. So those are some of our family resources that have kind of just shaped the way that we've thought about family and helped us to go further faster in parenting, marriage, etc. And so I hope that that's helpful. A few other things at home. So obviously we have to manage our family, but we also have to manage our home. And, Laura and I have been married for 10 years, and I want to talk a little bit about outsourcing, or at least thinking about outsourcing. Laura and I weren't always in a position to do this, but we are in a position now. And some of these things, if you're able to do them, are extremely beneficial. And I'll tell you why. But something that's been helpful, and I'll share this in the business section as well, is I read a book by Dan Sullivan, one of the best business books I've read recently. It was called Who, Not How. Who, Not How. And the whole premise is oftentimes we ask, well, how am I going to do this? I don't know how to do this. How am I going to do it? And instead of asking how, because that question will frustrate us, we should ask who. Hey, someone loves to do this. Someone is an expert at this, and someone could do this a lot better than I can. So instead of me trying to figure out how to do it, why don't I see if I can find a who can help me with that specific thing? And so I've tried to implement that thinking in every area of my life. And at home, when I think about things that need done at home every week, Laura and I have 4 kids. Number 4 is on the way. We both work full time. We still have to do laundry. We still have to do, dinner every night, et cetera. And so what are some ways that we can outsource some things to make our life easier at home? Well, a few things. Number one, when it comes to grocery shopping, for the past couple of years, we've been basically getting all of our groceries delivered. And we use 2 services. One is through Costco, and it's an app called Instacart, if you haven't heard of it. And Instacart is phenomenal. You pay, I believe, a monthly subscription, but they'll actually deliver your groceries from Costco. And then Amazon obviously purchased Whole Foods, and that's the other place that we grocery shop, and they have a delivery service as well. Now, you do pay for both of these services, but what I want to point out to you when it comes to all of these outsourcing things is when you outsource something, you no longer have to take the time to do what that thing was. And so I love on the Instacart app, they actually will tell you how much time that you've saved by getting your groceries delivered rather than going. And on average, it's 2 hours a week just for Costco. And when I think about it, for me, the value of time is much more valuable than money. And the way Laura and I are living right now, our time with our children is so important, especially at the ages that we're at. And so I have a choice. On a weekend or a weeknight, I can either, come home from work and then go spend 2 to 4 hours grocery shopping, or I can pay a little bit extra money and get those 2 to 4 hours back and spend them with my family. Well, for me, I'm going to spend them with my family every single time. And so getting our groceries delivered has been huge. Other things that we either have or are considering outsourcing, getting our grass cut. Now, again, I know people push back on this. Like, I am not handy at all. So let me just tell you this, like, landscaping, yard work, hanging stuff in the house, like that drains me more than probably anything on the planet. I know for some people that's like their sweet spot and it energizes them and they can rest and relax. Yeah, not me. And so outsourcing landscaping and cutting grass, et cetera, has been huge. Cleaning the house, again, another thing that just takes a ton of time. Could you find someone else to outsource to? And again, there's not a resource I use. It's just find a local cleaning company to help. And something I'm looking into, I don't know if we'll actually do it, but if we could find someone to do our laundry on a weekly basis, I mean, how many of you are parents out there? Like, wouldn't you love if you could just pay a couple bucks, not a couple bucks, but pay weekly and someone actually fold? How many hours do we spend folding laundry in our lives? Et cetera. And so these are just some things that we've outsourced. Again, with our children, we both chose to work, and so we use daycare. But these are all just services that have helped our life become better at home. So I just encourage you to think about everything that you do at home. Think about how much time it takes, and think about, are there other services that you can outsource to so you can have more time for what's important to you? And I would say this, even if it's not your kids, like if you can free yourself up from some of those tasks and you have a side business that you're trying to build, you could be putting all those hours towards your business rather than chores, and think about the ROI that comes with that. So just a few thoughts for you. A few things around the home that have been helpful. So Laura and I just moved into a new house and we absolutely love it. And the previous owners were incredible, and they did things with the house that I wouldn't have even dreamed of in 100 years or know how to do. But something they really encouraged us to do that's been awesome is get Sonos wireless speakers. Sonos, S-O-N-O-S. And we never had wireless speakers in our house before. They used them and they loved them. And so we've decided to invest in those, and we absolutely love it. So if you're looking for a home theater system or speaker system, I really encourage you to check out Sonos speakers. And then they also had several Ring security devices around the house as well. And so we've been utilizing them, and they're just awesome. So if you don't have a Ring doorbell or Ring security cameras around your house, I really encourage you to check those out as well. A little bit of a turn here from family and home. I'm going to talk about journaling, because journaling is really big in my life. And again, if you don't journal, I do have a whole podcast episode on that and a course. Really encourage you to journal. But a few apps that I love here, the 5-minute journal app. Again, if you typically don't like sitting down and journaling, the 5-minute app is something you can do on your phone. It takes less than 5 minutes, and it's just really, really beneficial. You can write down what you're grateful for that day, what your highlights of the day were, affirmations. You can put a picture of the day. It's just a phenomenal app. Again, that's the 5-minute journal app. When it comes to pen and paper, if you're a pen and paper person, Laura and I like gallery leather journals, have been using those for years. And again, we'll include links to those in the show notes. They're beautiful. And then I have not bought into this yet, but I have a bunch of friends that are trying to sell me on this device called Remarkable 2. And if you're listening to this, your phone's going to hear me, and now you're going to see ads for it everywhere. It does look cool. I'm a little skeptical, to be honest with you. It seems a lot like the Kindle to me. When the Kindle first came out, I was really excited about it. I loved it. I used it for 2 years, but then really missed the feel and experience of pen and paper. And so I went back to pen and paper. And so I'm a little bit skeptical of Remarkable 2. We'll see if I take the jump. But if you're looking for journals, 5-minute journal app, gallery leather journals. All right, let's talk about finances, some things that have helped me. And again, I'm not a financial advisor. I'll just preface it with this, but these are things that have helped Laura and I go further, faster in our finances. Number one, by far, is Dave Ramsey. So huge Dave Ramsey fan, huge. I went through Financial Peace University, which is basically a class that he offers. When I was 17 or 18 years old, my father-in-law sent me through it. So beneficial. It gave me a vision and a way to manage my finances moving forward, and it changed our life. And it's very, very simple. Dave shares his 7 baby steps, which I'll just share with you. Number one is having a $1,000 emergency fund. Number 2 is to get out of debt as soon as possible. Number 3 is to get a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. Step 3B, if you're in this season of life, is to save up a down payment for your house. Baby step 4 is to put 15% of your income into retirement. Baby step 5 is to fund your 529s. Baby step 6 is to pay off your mortgage as soon as possible. And then baby step 7 is basically to build wealth and become extremely generous. And so for most people, those baby steps will change your life. And Dave has a daily podcast that comes out 3 hours a day worth of content of people calling in with their financial situation and getting advice from Dave. And so that's all free as well. So if you've never listened to the Dave Ramsey Show, I encourage you to do that. You can also check them out on YouTube. Tons of content there. But if you're looking to get your finances in order and don't know where to start, I can't encourage you to listen to Dave enough. Even though, we know the baby steps, I've been listening to it for years, I still listen to Dave on a consistent basis just for inspiration and to challenge me to really focus on our financial stewardship. A few other things. We got a financial advisor a few years ago on top of listening to Dave, and that was a game changer. I basically view a financial advisor as a coach. And so Laura and I have someone that we meet with twice a year, and we go over all of our financials, and he basically coaches us. Hey, here's what you're doing well. Here's what you could be doing better. Here's some tweaks that you can make. And I'm friends with my financial advisor, and I'm kind of quirky, but I actually made our financial advisor give us a report card. And, there was like 7 different categories, I think. And, we started off with a certain grade that wasn't an A, and he gave us a plan to get all A's. And I never got straight A's in my life. And so it was really fun. And we got to a point where we got straight A's on the first report card. And then he smiled and grinned at us and he said, there's another report card, and there's like another level of, financial management. And so that was really exciting, but you need someone in your corner who knows finances and can really coach you. And so if you don't have a financial advisor, I'd encourage you to check them out as well. And then the third category, this is going to sound counterintuitive to what I shared about Dave, or hypocritical, I should say. But Dave Ramsey hates credit cards, does not encourage credit cards at all, shred them up. And for years, that's how Laura and I lived. We never used credit cards. However, last year, I was listening to someone, and basically they said, if you're not using credit cards, for their benefits, you're missing out on a 3 to 6% return on all of your spending. And for whatever reason, that challenged me to really look into it. And so I did jump into the credit card game last year. Now, let me just preface it with this, that we pay off our credit card every single month, right? And so if you cannot handle having a credit card, I absolutely agree with Dave that you should cut it up and never touch it again. It's not worth it. It's not worth a 3 to 6% return. Like, you need to get your finances under control. Laura and I felt like we were in a position where we were good stewards and we could financially responsibly handle getting credit cards. And so I will say that I have had some fun doing the credit card game. And so the first year I really looked for cash back credit cards, and I found some great ones. And then recently I've gone to more points and started using those. And so for us, we're more of an American Express family. And so the favorite cards that we've gotten recently that have been really beneficial is the American Express Gold Card. This is really beneficial because you can get 4 points for every dollar spent on groceries and restaurants, and they have great bonus offers. So if you have a family and you spend a lot on groceries and restaurants, that's a phenomenal card for you. They have an American Express Green Card where you get 3x for every dollar that you spend on travel. That's really beneficial. And then for everything else, we basically use a Wells Fargo 2% cash back card. And that basically for every purchase, we're at least getting 2% back on every dollar that we spend. So, and then Laura does use a Marriott Bonvoy card. She's a Marriott person and travels a lot for work. So that's been beneficial as well. So that's been a little bit of fun. But again, if you can't handle it, I would not encourage you to check those out. But those are our favorite credit cards right now. So that's financial. The next category would be travel. So Laura and I love traveling. And so my travel hacks are very, very simple. But for all of my trip planning, so I get really detailed. For me, I'm a bucket list guy. So I want to check off every bucket list item. I want to find out what every bucket list item is when I visit somewhere new. And to do that, I really use TripAdvisor. That's probably been my favorite place to go to look at restaurants, things to do, etc. And a lot of times I look for the highest rated. I look for people's reviews on things, etc. Now I'll do some Google searches as well, but TripAdvisor is my go-to. When it comes to booking flights, we use Google Flights. So if you just go to google.com/flights, My understanding is that they pull the best and cheapest flights together and give you all of those. And so that's what we use to look into booking our flights. For car rentals, I just started using this at a recent trip, but I loved my experience. There's an app called Turo. And so rather than going through car rental companies, you can actually, it's kind of like Uber for car rentals. So you can actually rent people's cars for as long as you need, and you pay, and it's a great experience. So if you want to, miss out on the lines and save some money, I encourage you to check out the Turo app. And Laura and I also love national parks. We love hiking and all kind of adventure things. And so when we go to somewhere where we can hike, I use an app called All Trails, and it basically has every trail on the earth on it. And they have reviews and pictures of each of the trails as well. So that's kind of how I pick my bucket list hikes. And then I also, again, I enjoy running and biking a lot, especially if we're in a national park. And so there's an app I use called Strava. It's a social platform for running, biking, and really pretty much any workout, but primarily running and biking. And what I love about it is, one, it's social, so you can connect with a bunch of people. But anywhere you go, you can basically look at the most popular routes. You can look at different segments that they have and basically see where the best places to run and bike are. And then there's a bunch of things that are competitive in it as well that I love. But those are pretty much our go-tos when it comes to travel. When it comes to physical fitness, that's the next category. Laura and I both have Apple Watches. That's what we use to track all of our, our sleep, our heart rate, et cetera, our workouts. That's been really, really good. I'm a huge Apple fan. I just mentioned the Strava app. That's what I use to basically track all my running and biking. And for Laura and I love working out at home. I am not someone who wants to go to the gym. For me, again, it comes back to similar, as I mentioned before, wasting time. I don't want to drive a half hour to a gym, work out, have to shower, come back home. Like, way too much time when I can just go in my basement or wherever my workout room and work out and then come upstairs, shower, and be done. So for us, Beachbody, I've been a Beachbody fan for, like 12, 14 years now. Love all of their workouts, still use them. And I primarily use them for their weightlifting programs. So I love P90X. I love The Work is a new one that they did that I do a lot. Body Beast is another one that I do. And those are pretty much my go-to programs with Beachbody. And then last year, Laura and I got a Peloton, and I fell in love with that. I didn't know that I would. I wasn't really into biking at the time. Laura wanted it, and then now I'm obsessed. And so the Peloton's great. And again, not only do they have cycling workouts, but they have basically every kind of workout you can imagine. And the experience is phenomenal. And so if you're thinking about getting a Peloton, I couldn't encourage you enough to do that. And then when it comes to equipment, when it comes to weights, I use power blocks. So these are something I just got off Amazon, or you can just get offline. If you just look up power blocks. So instead of having to buy, 100 set of dumbbells and spend a ton of money and have a ton of weight, these are just 2 dumbbells that you can actually adjust the weight on. So I have 2 sets. I have a set that goes from 5 pounds to 50, and then I have one that goes from 10 to 100. And again, they were well worth the investment. I like that. They're my favorite brand out of all of them. I haven't actually bought the Bowflex ones, but I don't like the feel of them as much. So power blocks have been huge for us. So that's when it comes to working out. And then when it comes to health, all of those, I mentioned Beachbody and Peloton. They'll both give you nutritional advice that's super helpful. And then there's 2 apps that I use when it comes to health that may be helpful for you. One is called Think Dirty. Think Dirty, and no, it's not a dirty app. But basically, you can put in any product in the world, and it'll tell you if there's unhealthy chemicals in it or something that shouldn't be in it that's going to be harmful to your body. Really, really helpful and really insightful to see how much bad stuff is in everyday products that we use. And so it'll actually suggest better products that you can use so you can just live better inside your home or wherever you go. And very similarly, that comes to most products. There's an app called Fujicate, and that'll do the same thing, only it'll do it with food. So it'll actually grade your food on an A to F scale on how healthy it is and how clean it is based on the actual ingredients in that food. And so if you ever want to know something is healthy or not, I found for me, when I changed my diet and got on a nutrition plan, it changed everything. And when I started actually tracking and learning what's in food, you'd be shocked at like how much bad stuff is in things that you think are healthy. And oftentimes the food we think are healthy are some of the most unhealthy foods. But what's beautiful is you can find substitutions for them that actually are healthy. And that's what was a game changer for me when I lost a lot of weight. It was really just making healthy substitutions for the unhealthy food I was eating. And Fujicate is a great app to help with that. So that's physical. Let's talk about spiritual. Just a few things in my spiritual walk that I thought would be worth sharing. Most people have this, but the YouVersion Bible app, again, the YouVersion Bible app, you can look that up. Best Bible app out there. Phenomenal. Tons of devotions on there and different things that you can do. So pretty much everything that you would need in your devotional life is all in one app there. There was an app Laura and I went through a few years ago called Mission 119, which was about a year and a half devotional that comes with a 10-minute audio teaching every day. That was very valuable to Laura and I in our walk with God. And then the third thing was just something that I read recently. If you've been along for my journey, you know that prayer has become a big focus of my life in the past 3 to 4 months. And a book I just read was extremely helpful. It was called The Hour That Changes the World. The Hour That Changes the World. And it actually gives you a structure for your prayer life. Again, very, very helpful resource. So that's it for my personal resources. I want to take a few minutes and just share some work resources for your professional life. And the first one I'll share is around goal tracking. I use this at Light of Life and at L3 Leadership to track organizational goals and issues. And it's just an app or an online resource called Monday.com. Monday.com. And so I put all of my goals there, my issues. You can track whether you're on track or off track, and it's very visually stimulating. And so that's a great resource. When it comes to task management, I'm actually using it right now. A few years ago, I got turned on by a friend to the Full Focus Planner. This is something that Michael Hyatt created. And literally for years, I used online apps. I used my phone apps to try to figure out task management. And I just never found a system that worked for me until I started using this. And I've been using Full Focus Planners now for 4 years. You get a new one every quarter. So one Full Focus Planner is 90 days. And every day I pick my top 3 priorities that I need to focus on. I have a to-do list. Every week you do a weekly sweep where you go back at the past week and all the things you missed get carried over, and then you plan for your next week. It's just a phenomenal resource. Again, you can check that out at fullfocusplanner.com. So that's task management. A few other things on productivity. Back to the outsourcing thing on the who, not how principle. Getting a virtual assistant was a game changer for me. So I have one currently at L3 Leadership, and my virtual assistant does things like manages my calendar, manages my email, any administrative tasks that I have, books my travel, reaches out for podcast guests, follows up with podcast guests, does our podcast show notes. Ashley is incredible. Ashley, if you're listening to this, I'm so grateful for you. And I actually got my virtual assistant, Ashley. We met through a mutual connection that connected me to her, and that's been a great relationship. But if you're looking for a VA, another virtual assistant, I'd really encourage you to check out Belay Solutions. That's BELAY Solutions. They'll actually connect you, and they have a whole process for onboarding you with a virtual executive assistant, and they're top notch. So if you're looking for that, I'd really encourage you to do that. Some other productivity tools and hacks. I use an app called 1Password. I don't know about you, but it used to drive me crazy. Just remembering all my passwords for every single site. It was just insane. Well, 1Password keeps all of your passwords in one site, and they'll actually auto-generate new passwords that are actually really secure for new sites and then save that. So basically, you never have to remember it again, and literally you can log into any website with a click of one button. It's phenomenal. So again, that's 1Password, and we'll include a link to that in the show notes. When it comes to organizational development and management, a few of my favorite resources. One is a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. So when I think about leading our team and leading our organization and a structure to do that, I use Traction by Gino Wickman. Like, he lays out a perfect process for running an organization in that I think will be really beneficial to you. And then he has a few follow-up books to Traction that are helpful. One is called How to Be a Great Boss. How to Be a Great Boss. And it literally, if you've never led and managed people before, it's the roadmap. It's the exact roadmap that you need to be a great boss. And then there's another book called Rocket Fuel. And he basically said, as a leader, you're either a visionary or you're an integrator. You're a visionary or an integrator. If you're a visionary, you need an integrator. If you're an integrator, you need a visionary. And so it's recognizing which of those you are and then learning how to work with the opposite. And usually that person is the opposite of you, which is why they need you, or why you need them and why they need you. And so great book for that. So again, if you're looking to get better at organizational development and leading an organization, Traction by Gino Wickman. Another resource that I love is an organization called Strategic Coach. with Dan Sullivan. I've been following that Dan now for years, and he has so many tools, and just the way he thinks is just brilliant. And so anything by Dan Sullivan, check out. He has a bunch of ebooks that you can read that are phenomenal, and tools. Really encourage you to check him out. And then when it comes to people management at Light of Life, we use a tool called the Predictive Index, which is a behavioral assessment. And we use actually a partner of L3 named Eric Guy for this. And we use the Predictive Index for everything. We use it for hiring. We use it for managing. And it's the best tool that I've ever found for that. And so if you're looking for a great assessment tool that'll work within your organization, the Predictive Index is just that. A few more as we start to close up our time here. For communication, some things that have been helpful outside of email and text, obviously. One is a service called Slack. So Slack is a great service. I don't know how to describe it other than it makes your use for email, it makes your need for email less frequent. You're able to just chat with your team members. You really just have to check it out, but Slack has been great. And then another app that was a game changer is Voxer. So Voxer is basically a walkie-talkie app. And what I love about it is you can basically just leave people voicemails without having to call them, and they can listen to it anytime they want, and then they can respond like a walkie-talkie, and you can go back and forth. You can actually up the speed. So, if someone leaves you a couple minutes of things they want to talk to you about, you can put it on 2x or 3x or 4x if you can listen that fast. And again, that's just been a wonderful tool. That's Voxer, Voxer. So that's what we use for communication. And then lastly, I thought I'd just share some podcasting tools that I use in case you are a podcaster. And so first, again, just going back to the outsource thing, I used to edit my own podcast for years. Extremely time consuming. I am not good at it. It used to frustrate the mess out of me. And so when I got to a financial position with L3 that I could outsource that, I did. Right now, Andosha Creative does all of our podcast production. They're awesome. Again, that's Andosha Creative. And before that, I used a service called Podcast Network Solutions. Both of them did excellent work. And so, again, if you're a podcaster, I really encourage you, outsource what you're not good at and stick with what you are good at. To record this video and really all of my video interviews, I've been using a service called riverside.fm. Really, really enjoying that experience so far. For my mics, I use I think it's Heil, Heil, PR40 mics. That's something that I've upgraded to. That took a while to get there. When I started, I was using Audio Technica something. So if you just look up Audio Technica, great mic. There's one mic that's very cheap. It's under $100 and it's phenomenal audio. So I'd encourage you to check that out. I use a Logitech 4K camera right now. I'm actually probably in need of an upgrade. I want to get one of the really good cameras. So if you have a suggestion on a podcast camera, let me know. I use GarageBand when I do edit things or record things. I'm usually editing and recording in GarageBand. And then our YouTube channel, which is something we're trying to grow. So if you don't subscribe to us on YouTube, please do. I use a service called TubeBuddy that has been really beneficial in helping us grow our YouTube channel. So again, that's TubeBuddy. So that was a ton of content, very, very fast. And again, that's why we're including links to all of this in the show notes. So you can go back and click on any of these to utilize them. But I hope you found one or two that you might check out that were intriguing to you, that will add value to you. And as I mentioned earlier, if there's any apps or resources that I didn't mention that you use, please let me know. I'm always looking to get better as well. So let me know if you like this podcast episode. I can do more things like this. I love talking resources. I'd love to do an episode sometime on books that have impacted my life. But if you want to hear more of this, let me know. And if not, let me know that as well. So thanks for listening. I hope it added value to your life, and I'll talk to you next episode. Well, hey, leader, thank you so much for listening to my lesson on all the hacks. I hope it added value to your life. And just a reminder that you can find links to everything that I discussed in our show notes at l3leadership.org/336. And leader, as always, I want to challenge you that if you want to 10x your growth this year, then you need to either launch or join an L3 Leadership Mastermind Group. Mastermind groups have been the greatest source of growth in my life over the last 7 years. And if you don't know what they are, they're just simply groups of 6 to 12 leaders that meet together on a consistent basis for at least 1 year in order to help each other grow, hold each other accountable, and to do life together. So if you want to learn more about either joining or facilitating a mastermind group, go to l3leadership.org/masterminds. And as always, I like to end every episode with a quote, and I'll quote Dave Ramsey, who said this. He said, "Your business will never grow bigger than your ability to delegate." So good. Well, leader, I just want to remind you as we close that my wife, Laura, and I love you. We believe in you. And our encouragement to you is this: don't quit. Keep leading. The world desperately needs your leadership. We'll talk to you next episode.